Welcome back, boys and girls. I missed you guys. I bet you have been creating and reading and hopefully doing some of your other lessons. And now it's time to take a break and work on some art. I know you're excited. I am too. So today I thought, since we've been thinking about clothing and how creative we can be with things at home, that we might do a little drawing. So you might want to gather some of your supplies, paper, pencils, whatever else you have that you want to add color with, because of course our last lesson was about color. So you might be thinking when you get to the coloring aspect, what you want to do to make things stand out. If you want to do patterns or maybe even texture, remember that texture looks like it might feel. So if you're drawing a soft, fuzzy baby chick, remember what kind of lines might you use? Maybe some zigzag or soft zigzag lines. If it were a porcupine, they might be sharp and bold. If it's a snake, perhaps you would do something wavy. So be thinking about texture, be thinking about line, and of course, be thinking about color. You're going to have fun with this today. So, one of my favorite stories is called Animals Should Definitely Not Wear Clothing. So, I'm going to place that link inside of this particular lesson, and you can click on it and maybe you want to listen to that story first. It's one of my favorites, but I regret that I left it at school in my library. It's okay though, because we can do the lesson without it, but have fun. Listen to the story first. There's many versions on YouTube, but I will put one of my favorites in a link format on there for you. So, all right, so today we're going to take a look at animals should definitely not wear clothing, which is, of course, why I used my silly clothes again. Be thinking about some of those silly clothes that you used to dress up the other day and think about how you could incorporate those or what would be the most fun with certain animals. So we'll look at how to draw those animals today. And of course, you can deviate from what I'm showing you and do your own animals, or maybe you do a whole parade of animals with all these fun clothing choices. And again, think about those texture, think about colors, and we'll get into that a little bit. So first, I'm going to show you a few animals with clothing. And you may not want to put clothes all over the animal because you want to be able to still see the details of the animal or the characteristics of that animal, what makes it look like that particular animal. So I just did a couple on the board here for you to look at. So we're going to look at animals with clothes. And right now we have this cat. And you can see, of course, how I drew his face first and that oval shaped body. Then, of course, I put in some legs. Remember that back hip is a curve. We've talked about that a little bit before in class. And I added a party hat and then the little party blower and a bow on the tail just to be a little silly. Then we have the raccoon over here standing up with his rain boots on and his striped tail showing, and this fun umbrella. And of course, what makes a raccoon look like a raccoon is the mask eyes and that striped tail. So kind of keep that in mind as you're drawing as well. And of course, we have this baby chick here. So we have the oval head and that triangle beak, oval body with some added tail feathers. And look what we've done to make the hands look more human-like so that we could put clothing on there because we know that clothing is a human characteristic. So when you look at this short sleeve jersey, you see the shirt kind of comes back here and then this wing is holding the football. And then of course we have this pig with her earrings and her necklace and her diamond ring and bracelets and her heels. And she even has gloves on, which we know that we have fingers, but does a pig have fingers? I think not. I think it has hoofs. So be thinking about the characteristics of that animal, but don't let that limit you. Remember that you can add things that don't normally go on an animal, which is the whole point of this lesson. All right, so let's see what else happens here. All right, I've done a few for you, but I've done them in steps, so hopefully this is going to help you out. And let's start with a bird. All right, so there are varying kinds of birds. So be thinking about this is going to be very basic that I've done here. But if you wanted a cardinal or a blue jay, remember they have that part on top of their head, and you could add this triangular part on top of their head. If you were doing something more like a parrot, an eagle, a hawk, remember their beak is going to change. It's not going to have this triangular shape. So let's think about that for a minute. Step one, you would just draw that oval shaped head. And the goal is to have a full bird. So keep in mind you want to leave room. So think about how large you want the head and if that body is going to fit onto the page. Step two, add that triangle beak. Step three, do an oval shape again, but long oval for its body. And if it doesn't quite look right to you, you can continue adding to that. That's usually what I did. Now I did this in Sharpie so that you could see it, but when you're using pencil, remember you also could erase, so no problems there. Add another oval shape for a wing, and you could add, if you make a mistake, add extra because it looks like feathers at that point. Then add more oval shapes for tail feathers, and then add an oval eye. Traditionally, you don't see much white or other colors in the bird's eye, so you can just kind of color that in if you'd like, or wait until you have your color um, supplies. And then you can add feet. Now, if it were standing up, the feet might look stretched out, but typically it's going to be on a branch. So it's going to look like your fingers, how they crook over something. And so they grab on. So the talons will kind of curve. So you can just draw a curved line and one next to that. And then don't forget some sort of background. It can be on a branch where you've zoomed in really close. Now, this would be the point that you would start thinking about, what kind of clothes do I want to add? Do I want to add a necktie? Do I want to add a hat? What kind of fun things would it be interesting to look at to see what clothing choices would you have for a bird? Think about that for a minute. You can pause the video at any time and go back through some of these steps. That's not a problem at all. Let's move on to another animal. Oh, I guess before I do, I'll show you a couple of different ones for if you were trying a different kind of bird. Remember, if you were doing something like a parrot or an eagle, kind of square off the head, go out for the beak and come down, and then connect that bottom. Now, many times a macaw or something like that will have a white area around its eyes, and you might see the little part there. You can add more feathers around the head as well. Have fun with this. This really should be a fun exercise. So draw as many animals as you possibly can and create a whole zoo of animals with clothing. It'd be kind of fun to see. All right, so the next animal up that I have for you guys, and I tried to choose different things, but something simple enough for the younger guys and something that you could add a few details for you, you older kids that know how to add more details, make it a little more challenging for yourself. Right, so here we have an elephant and the outcome is at the bottom. I did not put tusk on the elephant, but you certainly could do that. This is the final one right here. And remember, they come out with a skin-like part and then the ivory, the white part. And maybe you could see it on the other side as well. So when you're looking at step one, you're going to start with kind of between an oval and a circle shape. And elephants have quite large ears and they're on the side and they bellow out. And so when you're doing that, you're going to want to go out and then come back up. And if you have a side view like I have here, you probably won't be able to see the other ear. It just depends on the angle you're trying to draw. If you have a picture of animals at home, a picture book, or another source, you can also use that for looking at pictures. I'm giving you general ideas how to break this down into shapes. We've done this before in class, so that should help you out a little bit. When you look right here on step number 3, you'll see that we've added a trunk. So we've come down and up beside it, and then connected at the top. Keep in mind that an elephant's mouth is technically right under that trunk, and that is the area that the tusk would be right beside that. Step 4, go right behind the ears, go back and back up, right under to create a neck, and this will be the full body. So traditionally, most animals with 4 legs are going to have between an oval and a rectangular shape for their body. Just kind of curve the end of it to make it work for you. And once you have the body, then go ahead and do an eye. And if you wanted to, you could do tusk at this point. Step 6 is showing you they have quite thick legs to hold up this big body. And they're much taller than you think, so you can make it taller on your page. But when you're going down, go across at the foot area and back up. And remember that they're going to have 4 legs, so you'll want some to look like they're further back than the others. And then step 7 is adding that tail. They have this tail that's thinner that has some hair on the bottom. So you could just draw hairs or you could do the shape if you'd like. Some people like to come in and do the little elephant nails at the bottom. They're just curved lines, kind of scalloped looking. And add a background. We know about that magic line, the horizon line back behind him. You could add in some trees. Remember, they would be on the African savanna. There are a few elephants that actually live in a forested area as well, so keep that in mind. But this would be the fun part in adding some clothing. Perhaps you're going to do a cap. I don't know. It's up to you. So we've done 2 elephants so far. 2 elephants, 2 animals so far. Moving on, this animal is a little more challenging, and it's going to look better, of course, with pencil because every time I drew it, it gets different, and you know how that works too. When you try to draw something exactly the same, it never turns out. Remember, we're human, we're not robots. That's why artwork is so important and actually so valuable because you're adding your own touch to that, your own spin. So let's look at this tiger. We're going to start off again with the kind of between that oval and round. I don't recommend tracing things like a circle because it's going to look too perfect. It's going to look very cartoonish. And so if you're going for a little more realistic, just use your freehand. Draw the best you can. And remember, he's furry, so you're going to add some zigzag lines in a bit anyway. Next, you're going to go for the ears. Now, tigers have unusual ears. Some cat-like or some animals in the cat family, their ears are more rounded. Some are more like your kitten you may have at home, and they're a little more triangular. And a tiger actually is kind of a combination. They have a little tip on there, but they look a little bit more rounded. So look how I did. I started kind of triangular, but then I rounded them off, and you'll see that more as you get down here. On step 3, go ahead and put in some white furry areas using zigzag lines, and they're going to be on each side and at the bottom, almost like a beard at the bottom right there. Step 4, remember that U shape we've talked about before when you're creating an animal that has a snout? Put that U shape. It can be a little thinner if you like. Inside of that U shape, you're going to use a triangle. So you're going to go over, down, and up, and it can be as thin as you'd like, but almost all cat-like creatures have kind of a triangular shaped nose, some smaller, some larger, and obviously different colors. So in this case, I darkened it so that you could see that. Then the next step would be to come down from that center part of the nose and go over, or in some cases you would go up, but in this case we're going to go over. So we've come down the center, out, out, right here. Step number 7 is adding those eyes in. And remember that most animals that have, they have a little white area like we have, but you can't see it as much. So I recommend not drawing that part. Just do kind of a circular eye and go ahead and put that pupil in. We've talked about an iris and we've talked about a pupil before. So you probably remember those. But if not, remember the iris is the colored part of your eyes and the pupil is that dark black part of your eyes. And so right here I've included both. Now, the wonderful thing, and wolves have this too, but the wonderful thing about animals that are in the cat family, traditionally you see this dark black area right around their eye. So you just take your pencil, trace around the eye you just did, just trace around it and do that a couple of times and it'll darken and thicken up. And then I usually just kind of make a point on either end of that eye. Now our next step would be including that white area. Tigers have that white area, that white fur that's right around their eye. So you're just going to include that part, go around, and I'm just drawing this, and that's what you're going to be doing on your paper. So we can't tell the difference, what color it is yet, but if you're wanting to color it later, that would be the white area. This area out here with the beard and this extra fur, that's going to be white as well. All right, so when you look at step 10, you're going to see that we're starting to put some of those tiger stripes in, and you're going to have some on the sides of the face. This is a good place. Of course, you could have erased this circular line up here, but I didn't. I just used that to make a stripe, and you can do that as well. That way you don't have to do any erasing. Some of these stripes are going to be small in the face. They kind of meet in the center right here, and you'll have a little at the bottom. And of course, just like dogs have this and cats have this, those whiskers. And so where the whiskers come out in this mouth area on that snout, you're going to see a few black dots. They almost will remind you of a stripe as well. Step 11, we're going to start adding in the body. So this is why it's important. If you were wanting to just draw the tiger's face, it might be huge on your paper. But if you're wanting to do the whole tiger, which is the point of putting clothing on him, then you're going to want to leave a lot of room. So make sure you're allowing room when you're drawing these animals today. So you've drawn the face and you've gotten all that part put in. So now look, we're going to come out from the head, moving over. Remember how we talked about the last animal? We said most animals are between an oval and a rectangle for their body. So you're going to go ahead and draw that part. And the next step would be to add in that tail. And remember, they love to wave that around, or if they're lying down, it could be curled up next to them. Think about that a little bit too, where you want to put the placement of that tail. And of course, that back leg, remember that hip, you can see where it joins together right there. And you're moving over for the paw, and we need 4 legs. And the last step is to add in some of these stripes. So we're putting some stripes on the back, and they should move all the way down to where the stomach is right here. Remember that their stomach or their chest area both are going to be white. And so your stripe should actually come down to that point. On the legs, they're going to curve around the side of the leg and the opposite way on the other leg, because one leg is you're going to be able to see the inside part where the white is, and the other leg you're just going to see the outside part. Same thing on the back. And then, of course, their tail has some stripes too. Tigers usually live in jungle-like areas or really tall grassy areas. So you may put some grass or maybe even some trees and things around there. But what kind of fun could we have with a tiger? Maybe he has on a vest. A vest doesn't have sleeves. Maybe he has on some kind of fun old-fashioned hat with flowers. That would be kind of fun to see too. So be thinking about what you would like to have on your tiger. I'd love to see maybe some shoes. Maybe he's got some sneakers on. They do like to run a little bit there. Or maybe you do a cheetah. Maybe you use that tiger format and you do a cheetah and he's got some running shoes on. All right, so the last animal that I'm going to cover the steps of today is a horse. And so a horse can be quite challenging. It's something about their legs, and when you get to that part, you'll see. But the easiest way I can show you how to draw a horse is to start like with step 1 with this circle and then a rectangle that connects. So this is going to be its head shape. And you can erase that little circular line later. Remember, you're going to be using pencil most likely. And then the next step would be to add triangular ears. And we may be able to see both ears, but we cannot see both eyes. Do you remember why? Yes, it's a profile view. It's a side view. So in that next step, you're going to include the eye. Now, their eyes are quite low and they're on the sides of their face. Camels have eyes like that. It helps block the dirt and the sand. They also have eyelashes. You actually can sometimes see their eyelashes and their eyelid. It protrudes. It sticks out just a little bit with that. You can also see the nose, which will just be one nostril, which is a hole. That's how we breathe as well. We have nostrils. And so we can just see one nostril. We can't see the other. It's on the other side. Remember that while you can erase this later, you also will be softening that rectangle up. That means maybe curving it a little, not making it so angular and straight. But it's a great way to start. So that's why I suggested it. All right, so when you're looking at step 4, you're going to put 2 lines here for the neck. Now it's important to make those wide enough because it's going to join the body. Now look at step 5. You're going to lightly sketch 2 circles. And there's a reason for this. This is how we connect the body, the frame. These circles are also going to help you with the muscles. It's going to give you some little definition where, especially my 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, you'll be able to shade this if you like. So you could add some shadows in there. So step 6, you're going to connect that frame. So you're going from the neck over across these circles and you're connecting it back up. And what this does, and you can bring that in closer to the circles if you like. What this is kind of like we were doing with the other animals, is between a circle and a rectangle for the body. Now we're going to add some hair. And we know that horses have manes, which is the hair right here on top of its neck. And even some can fall down onto the face if you like. Sometimes horses have those braided or put in ribbons, bows, other hair accessories. So you can do that. That would fall in line with what we're doing today. So that'd be kind of fun. And of course, the tail right here. And you might want to make that stick out, or if your horse is running, you can have it kind of flying in the breeze. All right, so let's look at step 8. Step 8 is going to be using those circles to connect and make that first back leg go back just a little bit and then slant forward. And there's a little part right here, kind of like an ankle part with their hooves. Remember, they do have hoofs. And step 9 shows where I've softened this up. Remember how I talked about softening that up? It looks straight right here. So you can take your pencil and kind of curve it and erase lines you don't want to keep. You also are erasing parts like the circular part here, and then adding in this, and then erase some of that circular part right there. So this one would be complete with the exception of shading and, of course, clothing. Might be fun. Have you ever heard of a Tennessee walking horse? So maybe it has some walking shoes, or perhaps it has on some cowboy boots and a cowboy hat. That'd be kind of fun to see. It's a new sheriff in town, so we need to see. That would be a lot of fun with a horse. So let's take a look at some animals where we can add clothing to them. So I've got just a couple of animals here. Well, 5. And I want to show you how to add the clothing now. So when we're thinking about it, we have the panda bear right here. We have a dog. It could be a wolf if you wanted it to be. You could kind of change it up. A turtle, a fish, and a rabbit. So let's think about this. I'm going to add a vest. Remember, I have a vest on. I'm going to add a vest on this panda bear. Remember, vests don't have sleeves. They can have pockets. Some people keep their pocket watch in there, things like that. So I'm adding a vest. Notice how easy that is. I'm just making lines on top. I'm thinking about where his arms are and how that might look. So you may have to think about some things like that too. So he's got a vest on. Maybe he's going fishing. So I'm going to give him a fishing pole. There's the rod and the reel part. All right, let's bring it up. Make it go up here. And you know they have little circle parts that contain the fishing line. And maybe we make the line come down. Oh, and he's caught a little fish here. Okay, so what, oh, maybe he needs a fishing hat. Let's think about, one of those floppy kind of hats where you can barely see out of. Now, see, right now we can see through this, but on your paper you could erase it. Um, I'm just going to color it in so you can see how that might look a little bit. And I'm using Sharpie. You know how I feel about coloring with Sharpie. It's not the best tool for the job. But I'm just doing this so that you can see. I guess we'll have one ear stick out and one stay under his floppy fishing hat. What else? He could have on some big rubber boots. You know, when you wade out into the water and fish, they call those waders the big pants that go up, which I'm not going to draw pants on him because I do want him to still look like a bear, but I'll just draw him some rubber boots here. So I'm just going straight. Remember, his feet look furry right now, but when I cover them up, that's not going to be the case. So there's my fisherman panda bear. All right, let's think about what we might want that would be kind of funny on a fish. We have the fish right here. Maybe she has her purse, her pocketbook. Maybe she's been going shopping. So I'm going to put some lipstick on her right here. Maybe she's got on a floppy hat with a big flower. And what else might she need? I normally put gloves or something, but the way her fins are working, I don't think that will work. But I could put a high heel shoe on her tail. We could do 2 of them. That's kind of funny, huh? And of course, colored in, that would look a lot more fun. All right, what could we do with the dog over here? Maybe we do make some cowboy boots for him. Cowboy boots, I'm going to make the pointed kind. In the designs, you know how they have swirls sometimes. What do you think? That's kind of harder back here, huh? Yeah, think about that for a minute. And maybe he has, what do you think, a cowboy hat? We can see the side. And there's his sheriff badge, since we were talking about that earlier. Okay. What about that turtle? That could be fun. Let's think about, I'm going to make him a snorkel. Now, the funny thing about that is, does he really need a snorkel? No, he can swim underwater just fine, can't he? And maybe we make him some of those flippers that you put on when you get in the water. How funny is that? Maybe some swimming trunks. That could get tricky. So I'm going across his body, but I'm trying to make his trunks come down to his feet. And let's see, I have another black Sharpie here. Maybe you'll be able to see it. So we'll make his trunks come down like this. That's the bottom of the shorts. And then come up. It's kind of awkward, huh? All right, and now we have this fun little furry bunny here. So that rabbit needs some clothes too. How about a little tutu, little skirt on the back, maybe some ballet slippers. All right, so it's got a tutu, some ballet slippers. We can't see the other 2 legs, so I think I'm going to leave that part alone. But maybe we'll put a little bow in her, on her ear right here. So you're seeing now how you can be creative. All week we've been talking about different ways to be creative, and you were looking um, at some of the supplies and the materials you have at home. So we started off the week with um, clothing and being creative with clothing, and we're ending the week with being creative with your clothing. So I'd love to see some of your pictures of maybe a whole parade of animals with clothing. Now we know animals should not wear clothing. That's the name of the book. Look it up. It's called Animals Should Definitely Not Wear Clothing by Judy Barrett, and her husband is the illustrator. So take a look at the story. I'm including a link, and I hope you have a lot of fun with this. Enjoy your time. Enjoy your time together. Maybe mom or dad or grandma can draw some animals with clothing as well, or maybe they can give you some suggestions. Remember that you can use things like different kinds of hats, different kinds of sporting equipment, different kinds of jackets or sweaters or ties. Jewelry would be perfect as well. Gloves, shoes, socks. Have fun with this. And again, I cannot wait to see the pictures that you post on our website, on our White Station page. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I did. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week.